Welcome to an Unignorable Update. I'm your host, Christine Curtis, and joining me today are United Way Central Alberta CEO Brett Speight and Executive Director of the Red Deer and District Community Foundation, Erin Peden. Welcome to the show.
Hi.
Hi, thanks so much for having us.
Yeah, and we wanted to talk to both of you because it hasn't really come to this before, but COVID is making such a difference in a lot of things and the way things operate. Why are we talking to both of you together?
In the light of everything that happened within our community in response to COVID-19, we saw an opportunity for collaboration. And how did that phone call go, Brett? I called you and it was a bit of a shock because I'm not sure that we had even spoke before that. Have we?
I think we had met once when you were in a different role at might have been a WIC meeting or something, but at a community event. We had met very briefly one time in your previous role, so.
Yeah.
Well,
and here we are together.
Yeah, and you know, if you think about that, that's quite interesting because you're really only down the street from each other doing somewhat similar roles, and it took COVID to get the phone ringing.
Yeah, it was actually the phone call was quite funny because I think we were working on the exact same thing at the exact same time. I think when Erin called me, she had just discussed with her board what their approach would be, and I had just got approval from our board of directors to pull funds from our reserve fund in order to seed fund our response fund. So the timing was really funny because I think I literally got the last approval email 2 minutes before Erin called me. So the timing was quite a coincidence, but it worked out great because we were both of the same mindset.
And so then what that did was it ended with what we're calling, I guess, the Community Response Fund. And okay, what is the fund? What's the fund made up of?
Well, like Brett mentioned, it was seed money. Actually, how we did it at the Community Foundation, because we build grants off of our endowment funds. So traditionally, every spring, we do a grant season and we grant out to charities within the community. What we did this time is postpone that or cancel that and use our Smart and Caring Communities funds in a way that is going to create change and impact in response to the COVID.
Is that something that's ever happened before where you've actually suspended your upcoming giving and focused on any type of emergency?
You know what, not in my time, certainly. I haven't seen any record of that, having gone through our records recently, but it was not something that I created completely on my own. I was reaching out to several other executive directors within our province here. And the one that had the most impact on me was when I was reading how Fort McMurray came together and collaborated after the fire. And that was quite a bit of inspiration. And I'm not kidding you, as soon as I read that email, I picked up the phone and called Brett.
Awesome. And Brett, I know that the United Way has emergency funding. It has smaller amounts of emergency funding for agencies all the time, but this is something completely different, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, our normal, we have professional development grants and capital and equipment grants that we do outside of our normal funding stream every year, as well as a small pool of emergency funds for those one-off scenarios that happen to occur. But this is so much bigger, and the impact on agencies is so much bigger that we really needed a bigger response. And so I went to the board of directors to ask for the $50,000 in seed money. There was no hesitation to pull those funds out of reserves and start this fund. And we're fortunate we've seen a lot of corporate and individual support. So we've grown that fund from the original investment of $50,000 from the United Way reserves to over $150,000 total, including those reserve funds. So, and we continue to see more corporate support come in. So the response has been fantastic, and it's allowed for some great funding conversations. When that pool grows, you're able to do more and have a bigger impact.
Okay, and so just to be clear again, these funds are for agencies who are dealing with the brunt of the people who need immediate help because of COVID.
Correct.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're focusing on three things with the funding stream. We work together along with Lori Jack in our office, who is very good at putting together grants. If you kind of give, at least if I give her vague information, she's very good at coming up with very detailed information. But really focusing on basic needs, social isolation, and also capacity for agencies, because a lot of the agencies have had to shift the way they're operating. Obviously, good example just off the top of my head, and there's many more, is agencies like Big Brothers Big Sisters who have had to move to virtual mentoring and things like that. So really focusing on those three areas to get those needed funds out as quick as possible to the agency so they can start shifting or whatever they need to do to meet those needs.
Now we've been with the Community Response Fund for about, now is it 5 or 6 weeks? And the need for donation continues because it looks like COVID is not going anywhere fast.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're seeing a lot of applications. So we've created a weekly process, again, with the spirit of that is to get those funds out as quickly as possible to those agencies. So we just finished funding our 4th week yesterday, and we're into week 5 applications, and the applications keep coming in. But obviously the pool of funds is starting to get depleted. So yeah, absolutely. Donations are so important to continue to drive this work. And knowing it's difficult for everyone, but any support right now is extremely important. And right now, until the 31st of May, if you go to either of our websites and click on the donation link, then it will actually be matched by the provincial government as our relief fund has been chosen as one of the funds that will receive those provincial dollars.
You can't beat matching funding.
No, absolutely not. Matching funding is fantastic.
When we first started, it was an assumption that when we saw agencies that we didn't recognize because they hadn't in the past applied to us, we assumed that they had a relationship with United Way already. And what I found through all of this is that our eyes have been open to just how many agencies are out there that we are not aware of. So this has been a really excellent opportunity to see exactly where the services are in all of Central Alberta, not just primarily here in Red Deer.
Yeah, that's a great point. It's because I had that same assumption where one of the two of us have likely funded the majority of these, but I would say the vast majority of what we're seeing is not funded by either of our organizations at this point. So yeah, a bit of an eye-opener for sure.
I guess as well, United Way is dealing with 2 other sets of funding, and that's not what we're talking about. We should probably explain to people, we will be dealing with some seniors funding and additional funding that's been mentioned by the federal government, but this is what we still need to raise money for here.
Absolutely. And so the seniors funding was announced to be a network, or use the United Way network, to get that out. The reason for that is because we're already on the ground. We know the agencies, we have the process in place. And so those funds have been received locally. So it's about $80,000 to distribute locally. And we've already reached out to seniors agencies. What we've done is actually kept the process exactly the same as for the relief fund. But we know that there's that separate pool of funds. And then, yeah, on Monday or Tuesday, I guess it was this week, the federal government made another announcement of $350 million to support the not-for-profits and charities. What's exciting about that is both the Community Foundations of Canada and United Way Central Canada are involved. So both the Community Foundation and United Way will see those funds. And because we already have a great system in place, we can just continue with our existing system to get those funds out as fast as possible. The one thing I've really found with this collaboration is, week 1 was weird as we kind of tried to figure it out, but we've really found a rhythm, and we've really, our volunteer reviewers have done a great job of understanding what we're looking for and making solid recommendations and listening to any input that Erin or I provide in the decision-making process, and it's really becomes very, very smooth, and as much work as it can create, it's one of the highlights of my week during this COVID time. So I don't know if Erin, if you have anything to add to that.
We are leaning on a few of our community members quite heavily and having them adjudicate this every single week. But the insight that everybody is bringing to the table has, I mean, I know from our perspective, from the community foundation community members who are involved in the adjudicating, we've had conversations afterwards about how much insight we've received from having these conversations with people from a different organization. And I think when it comes to making those funding choices, they are made across a very balanced spectrum of people. So I'm really comfortable with how this has gone, and I feel that we are working really, really hard to fill those gaps within our community. It's been a fantastic experience.
So from what I can see, it looks like this collaboration is not going to be ending anytime soon. Am I right?
I agree. I think you're right.
Yeah, I think it's been a fantastic collaboration, and I think there's going to be more opportunities for us to partner in other ways going forward. And now that we've kind of started the relationship, there's so many opportunities. And when we work together as funders, it makes life easier for the agencies, but also we're able to leverage the size of both of our organizations to make a bigger change. So I 100% agree. I don't see it changing anytime soon.
Okay. Is there anything either of you would like to add?
You know what, I'm going to throw this out here just because before we started this, Christine and I had a little conversation about on the ground or frontline services. And I just want to send a huge thank you out to all of the agencies who are putting the work in right now. We are asking so much of them. And as we read these applications, I am impacted deep in my heart every single time. So thank you to everybody who is putting themselves out there right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't say it better myself. Delivering, we were very fortunate to receive a in-kind donation from Canadian Tire of protective masks, which we're distributing to agencies across Central Alberta. And as I delivered those today, this morning before this, it's you know, the excitement they had in getting masks so they could continue to deliver their programs to their clients. It's something else. It's inspiring, and it you know, every little bit we can do and our donors and our supporters can do to help will make a big difference. And it really is inspiring not only to see their passion, but also how they've been able to shift so quickly to continue to serve these individuals. So while the days can seem long and it's very busy with a community response fund happening, it's sure rewarding and makes it worthwhile for me, for sure.
Well, thank you both for joining us today on the Unignorable podcast. And Erin Peden is the Executive Director of the Red Deer and District Community Foundation, and Brett Speight, CEO of United Way Central Alberta. We've been talking about the Community Response Fund. Are you guys going to come back and talk to me some other time?
You just have to put it in my calendar, and I'm always available, although I don't know if I'm the most interesting guest, but we'd love to have Erin back at some point.
All right, love it. That would be wonderful. Thank you so much.
And thank you. And thanks everybody for watching.